All right, guys, we're live now. And everybody, thank you all for joining us tonight for this show. And we're really looking forward to the show tonight. Tonight, I have a special guest with us. He's a member of the group, and his name is John. And I also have tonight with me Nick Valente. He is the director of the North American Dogman Project, Region 3. So I'm glad to have you all here tonight. And I just want to thank you all who are all out there right now in the live chat. Y'all make sure y'all let everybody in the group know we're live and share this live everywhere else too, and let everybody know we're live as well. I want to thank you all for showing up. Vincent Treewell, thank you for showing up. Marvin, Man of Light, Angelo Jeffries, Lorna, Brandon, and let them know in the group chat we're live too, guys. So we're going to go ahead. We're not going to waste too much time tonight. I'm going to go ahead and get started with everybody on the show. First, Nick, did you want to basically tell everybody who you are for those who may not know?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Bettina, for letting me co-host your show tonight. Um, I'm Nick Valenti. I'm from the North American Dogman Project. I'm the director of Region 3, also the founder and director of the International Dogman Project, and also the site Quad Coalition of Sciences. Tonight, we are going to interview John. He's from Texas, and he and his family, well, he and his wife have been going through a little bit of a dogman situation there, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Absolutely. John, basically, you go ahead also and tell everybody who you are. And basically, just after that, I'll have you to pretty much give a brief bio of yourself, and then we'll go right into your experiences with dogmen on your property. But can you tell people a little bit about yourself, John, before we get started?
Well, born and raised in essentially in the house that I'm living in. Family's been out here for well over 150 years. Uh, I left for a bit to go into the Navy and then came back. Now I'm working private security as well as running the farm. Um,
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
John,
All
what
right.
I don't want you to tell us the town, but what part of Texas? North, south, east, west, central?
And North Central.
North central. Good. That gives us a good idea of where this incident happened, or ongoing incident, I should say. Just to let everybody know, I've been speaking with John over Facebook Messenger for about about a month and a half now, and he's had quite a few sightings and encounters that we're going to get into here tonight, including some. I don't know if you want to call them MIBs, John, or the guys in the SUVs. Were they more military dressed? Were they in black? BDUs? What would you say?
They were more military dressed. They looked like the sweeper teams I used to work with overseas.
Uh-huh. Camo, black BDUs. What were they in?
Khakis.
They were in just regular khakis.
Well, I mean, there'd be like the khaki tactical pants, your 511 style,
Uh-huh.
something like that, with full armor plate kit, drop leg holster, as well as a carbine.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we'll get into that, but about how long ago did the Dogman sightings begin?
That's what I was going to ask you.
So the first time I actually spotted one was back in November.
Of 2021?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you said your family has been on that same property for a while?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Has anyone ever spoken about any sort of cryptid sightings or anything like that?
There used to be the jokes of some Bigfoot sightings back on a creek over here, not too far from us. And then my father saw something that he thought was a bear, a rather large bear, whenever he was younger.
And
And
about
was your
how
family? I was going to ask real quick. Was your family used to having these, seeing these things? I guess from early on. Do you think this is something that has been on the family property for several years?
No, I do not think so. So
Okay.
we're
Now,
used to other stuff, but not this.
generally speaking, when we were talking, they're not exactly on your property. They're over the fence line on to the property next to yours. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
And you have actually sighted them in a barn-like structure.
So I've sighted them in a barn-like structure that is on a neighboring property, along with my old barn.
Okay, and you entered that area to check it out, right? And you found. Tell us what you found.
Yes, my barn. Actually, I try not to trespass, but found some
Right.
prints that were easily 7 to 8 inches across, uh, a full print, along with a couple of partial prints that led to the ladder going up into the hayloft. There was a wet spot on the wall behind the ladder that there should not be a wet spot. It looked like a droplet. Um, and then about the time I realized that, a little bit of dust fell from above me. I back up and you can see the rafters are bowing.
What did you do after that? Did you exit or?
Yeah, I kind of backed away. It was a debate on whether putting the barrel up to the floor right there and pulling the trigger or backing away. I decided to back away.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, when the first time that you saw Dogman on your property, did you know what they were already? These creatures that you
No, no, not a clue. I actually had to go onto several cryptic pages and describe what I saw, and everybody was telling me everything from skinwalker to these things, and so I started researching them, and that's whenever I kind of figured out that's what I'm dealing with.
tell everybody what was your first experience, your first sighting like? Tell us about that first experience, your first sighting.
Okay, so the first actual sighting, um, I was getting ready to go to work. I still had a little bit of time before I had to leave, but I was working overnights, and we had our dogs in our fenced-in yard outside, and they started acting weird and ran to the door. Were wanting inside, so we let them in. Uh, they were still acting weird and kind of looking around and watching and growling out the window. So I figured there was either a mountain lion or a coyote or something like that outside
Mm-hmm.
that was stirring them up. I went outside with my service pistol and a flashlight and started looking around out there. I saw some eye shine. The eye shine was a kind of an amberish green color, but pretty much amber. And they're fairly wide set. So I was kind of like, all right, this might be a large dog or it could be a large cat.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at the time, they were fairly close to the ground, and I couldn't see it clearly in the flashlight just yet because it was about 100, 150 yards away from me. And I wasn't using the best of flashlights at the time. So I walk off down the hill to go check it, and it never takes its eyes off of me. I'm like, all right, that's a little weird. A coyote would have already taken off. Even a big cat would have already taken off.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I got to where I could see it clearly, I was probably about 30 yards from it. And it was a really big canine. Black, to the best of my ability on color.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was essentially crouched down on the ground, almost in stalking mode, uh, kind of angled towards me. It wasn't directly facing me, and it wasn't directly broadside, but I had a clear view of its chest area.
John, about what time was this?
Oh, probably about 9ish.
Okay, 9 p.m. All right.
Yep. So it was dark, um, but it wasn't real late, wasn't real early.
How
And
big? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
uh, basically, whenever I saw it out here, predators are a shoot on sight, plain and simple. If it can go after my livestock, I kill it. Well, I aimed for the chest. I hit it broadside, and you could actually see the impact. You could hear the thud. And this was with a 40 Smith and Wesson, so a decent pistol caliber. It
Okay.
turns directly at me and stands up. And that's whenever I figured out I wasn't dealing with something normal.
How, how tall would you say it was? What did it look like? Can you describe it for everybody?
So it was probably about 6.5 foot tall, right in that area. Um, it pretty well, I would have said that it was just essentially a wolf that stood up on its hind legs, except that the front arms looked a little different and the chest was broader than what a normal canine is. It still had your regular canine shape. It was just, instead of being like a German Shepherd, is closer to like a bully breed on the width,
Yeah.
and very muscular, not scrawny, not lean. It was stout. The hind legs were very much canine legs. It had a bushy tail. Yeah, it looked like a wolf on steroids that could stand on its back legs.
John, did you notice any sort of smell coming from it?
Yes, stale dog urine and a rotten cadaver smell.
Yeah,
Oh,
about the
wow.
same thing that I noticed when I had my encounter.
So it was kind of one
Now,
of those things. Go ahead.
did it come at you aggressively like that when you had that first encounter? Were you afraid? Did you get a sense of, I guess, evil or impending doom like most people talk about? And did everything go silent? What was that whole experience like? I guess it would be
Everything
shocking to
was
see something like that for the first time, but tell us
everything
about
was
that.
silent. Um, it was just kind of like there's a predator in the area. I mean, I've come across mountain lions and stuff like that. It's almost the same sense. It's almost the same feeling to me of, okay, yes, it's something else that can kill me. Now, how do I need to address this? Um, of course, my sentiments at the time was said a couple of curse words, and it stepped towards me, and I stepped towards it, and said, "Well, Valhalla, here I come," and put 3 more shots into it, 2 to the chest and 1 to the head.
Now,
Oh,
Um,
wow.
did any of these shots actually hit it? Did you notice a
yes,
recoil?
yeah, yeah. On all 3 shots, it did recoil. The head shot, it kind of jerked its head to the side, reached up towards its head, and then kind of glared at me and left. It didn't run. It didn't anything else. It was just kind of one of those like, yeah, you're not worth my time.
It's like looking at you saying, "Is that all you got?" Hmm. Did
Quite
you?
Wow.
possibly. It was one of those of like, all right, yeah, this one's going to be more trouble than it's worth.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
were there, so what happened after that encounter, like after that day? I mean, after that moment, what did you do? Like, tell us about, like, just basically feel comfortable to go into every single detail, every encounter that we discussed over the phone calls that we've had. Just go straight into that, and we will go ahead and ask questions as you go along.
So yeah, a little after that, I went to work. Obviously, um, it didn't really phase me a whole lot. It 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 was just kind of one of those. Oh, great, something else to watch out for. Um, Went on a couple of days later. I was deer hunting, and I was in a little pop up blind. My wife calls me and tells me that there's something big coming down that looked like it could be a big deer. It's a little larger than a normal deer, and it was dark colored. So I was watching kind of the direction it was coming from, and it comes out of the tree line into the field about 200 yards from me. It doesn't move like a cat. It doesn't move like a dog. Its shoulders, with it on all fours, is easily 4 foot
Oh, wow.
tall on height. It crosses the 20, 30 foot in a matter of seconds. And then it stops, turns towards me, and stands up. I'm like, great, it's this thing again.
Mm-hmm.
So I pack up before it gets too dark and get out of there, because at least I have 200 yards from it, and I don't have a scoped rifle with me because I wasn't hunting that way that time. So there was no use me trying to shoot at it at that distance.
What caliber did you have? 30-06, 308?
Actually, I had a 45 long Colt lever action carbine.
Oh, okay.
So 100 yards was about the top range I was going to go with that. Aside from that, I did have something for if pigs came out. I did have a little PPSH 43, which is a Russian caliber submachine gun, essentially.
Okay.
Again, it just close range works good for hogs. But
okay.
not something I could use on that distance. So I packed up, we left. We actually went to dinner that night. As we were leaving, there was something across the road just behind behind a cattle guard. And my driveway's a long 1.5 miles gravel.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of stopped. It's like, all right, what's that across the road? And it was barbed wire that was dragged across it. And it was kind of looped up to where it would hang up in an axle and wrap around a tire and everything else. I'm like, well, that's unusual because the cows are not in this field. So there should not be any reason why it was dragged over here. And it wasn't there when I came in. And it just kind of felt wrong. So I get out. I have my pistol with me, drawn already. My wife is in the truck. She has her pistol drawn and ready.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of watches my back as I go over there and move it. And she had the feeling that she needed to snap a picture. She couldn't quite see anything, but she thought she saw some movement, so she snapped a picture. Sure enough, whenever you zoomed in on the picture, you could see the silhouette behind some of the oil field pipe. And it's very much the iconic pointy ears, almost German Shepherd with longer ears of a silhouette. And those pipes are easily 48 inches off the ground, and they're about inside diameter on them is 12 inches, so I'd say they're close to 14, 15 on the outside.
Now, Jeff, the barbed wire that was across the roadway, you think that was due to the fact that possibly the cryptid ran into it, broke it, and ran across the roadway and it dragged it with it? Or do you think possibly it could be setting a trap for you?
It was probably setting a trap, just because there has always been some gravel right there next to it, but it was, or not gravel, but some barbed wire right next to the gravel road for fixing the fences whenever it was broken, and it was that was dragged across.
I mean, next, what are they going to do? Put IEDs out there for you? I mean, geez.
Well, not quite.
Luckily, they don't have access. Yeah.
Yeah. At that time, I thought I was just dealing with one, so it's like, all right, that's one thing. A little bit later into December, I was heading to work, and I was leaving out at 4:30ish in the morning, and one walks out in front of me, and it's quite a bit bigger than the one I'd seen before. And it just blankly walks right out on the road driveway in front of me. Where it did it, it made me stop right next to a grove of trees. So automatically, me having the background that I've had, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this is something that was used in Iraq and Afghanistan. This is a tactic of something walks out, gets your attention, pauses you where you're in an ambush.
Mm-hmm.
So pretending like my attention is completely on the one directly in front of me, I'm scanning my peripheral, trying to figure out, all right, which way is it coming from? Obviously, there's two of them at the very least. So which way am I going to get hit from? About that time, I see out my driver's window behind in that tree grove. I see the movement, so easily, with as little movement as possible for it to be able to see me inside the vehicle and what I'm doing, I ease my pistol up to the windshield or to the window, and just as it steps out from behind the tree, I flip the laser light combo on with the laser pointed right at its nose. I had to kind of laugh about it because it swatted its nose.
Wow.
And it swatted at the laser, and that's whenever I saw that one had a very scarred up snout. Like about half of its nose was missing. And it had some scars on its chest with a little bit of hair missing. So apparently that was the one I'd encountered the first time. And it's hard to believe, but the one that was in front of me, I swear it was laughing. It looked like it was just kind of doubled over and chuckling at it.
Wow.
So it walked off after it did that for a little bit. It didn't come at me or anything else. It walked off back into the trees. The one that was to my driver's side, it snarled at me, and if looks could kill, I'd probably be dead. And turned and walked off.
How tall do you think the one in the roadway was? What's your estimate?
Probably around 7.5, maybe a little taller.
Okay.
Kind of difficult to tell. It was a little hunched over, but I would say if it was stretched out and standing up tall, it'd easily be 7.5 to 8, maybe.
Do you think that there's anything that made them start aggressively coming to your home or on your property, or I guess basically because you've been ambushed by them a few times, quite a few times, and you've
Well,
seen them when you've been out, you're doing your farm work and stuff like that too. Do you think that there's anything that you've done as far as going into their territory that have provoked them to come to you aggressively?
not in the past 2 years, other than the property that surrounds me sold to a developer. They started clearing out the old buildings, so I'm thinking they were just essentially pushed out of their normal territory, and they're trying to establish new.
And is there a water source near you or near that area?
Yes. Yes. I've got 2 spring-fed ponds on me with a wet weather creek that runs through there, and it's usually got water in it when I'd say usually about 8 months out of the year.
Are there fish in that pond?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's lots of fish in that pond.
So we have a food source and a water source. And
Yeah, that.
there's also deer in that area, correct?
Yeah, they frequent around where my deer feeders are.
All right.
They were going after what looked like they were going after was the wild pigs and the deer, because we used to have sounders of pigs that were 30 to 40 pigs in a group. Now I might see 5 or 6 in a group.
How many would you say are on your property?
As I've found out here lately, I've got what looks like a breeding pair with a pup and then a younger male that tends to avoid them.
You said the younger male tends to avoid the breeding couple?
Yes.
Now, did you say that the female, I can't remember when I was talking to you on the interview, did you say that you seen that she was nursing?
No, I never saw that. We had figured out that the pup likes to watch us whenever we're outside playing with the dogs, or if we're out in the garden and moving stuff around. And if it gets too close, you will hear a growl coming from the trees that's further back in there that will, I don't know what distance they're at because I can't see that particular one, but it'll vibrate into your chest. I mean, it's just such a deep growl that it is intense. Usually as soon as that happens, that pup hauls a tail back towards where it came from.
Now, Bettina, that's a good example of infrasound. I mean, if he's feeling it from all the way over there, that's a warning sound. And I guess in this case, it's because the juvenile is out there watching John and his pups,
You
and the
said
mom,
that.
the juvenile.
Now, are you saying like the infrasound? The good example of the infrasound is just basically the sound and the vibration in the chest.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a threatening infrasound, most likely, right?
yeah, most likely. Or calling it back. It could just be a recall.
Okay, that's terrifying. I mean, I'd be scared to go out there. Now, you've had so many different encounters that have happened. I don't know, like the one we talked about a couple of days ago when I discussed it with you. There was a situation. I don't know if this is the one that you just got through telling us about or not, but you were telling me that you felt like you have to pretty much, if you're trying to protect yourself and take one out, you have to get them in the soft tissue areas. Can you basically go into that and explain that situation to everybody? Because that
So
was interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
this was fairly recent, actually. This is not the one I was just talking about.
Okay.
This was a couple weeks back. We had just got our garden going and we had a sprinkler going on in it. Um, but to start with on this one, my wife was at home during the day. She had to get the horses up here and she was going to groom on them and everything else. And she had to go walk past a certain area on the place that's got a little grove of trees. And she said it smelled like stale dog urine and a dead animal. The horses didn't want to have anything to do with it. And whenever they were going by there, they were staring at it, snorting and huffing and acting weird and dancing all around and trying to get past it as quick as possible. And that was on a Friday. Um, that evening, whenever I got home from work, we went and checked the camera that was down in my hayloft, which is where I'd seen those tracks going up there. And so we did that. She told me about this. I'm like, okay, well, let's go down there and check it out. And sure enough, we go down there. You can smell it, and it's stout, strong, and everything else. We've got our dog with us. He is at her heel and just kind of hackles up on red alert. And the funny thing is, I've got a barn cat that this barn cat has gone out there and faced down a 1,200-pound bull with me. And it doesn't fear much at all. It swatted the bull right on the nose. Um, this cat's coming running down the hill with its tail bushed out and just starts headbutting us, trying to push us back up the hill. And
Oh
about that
wow.
time, we're trying to figure out, all right, why are you acting so weird? And I hear movement, and I happen to look up, and I see a head poke up. And before I could get the rifle on it, it ducked back down. So it's like, okay, time to go. Let's get, yep. We're going to listen to the animals. We're going to get back up the hill. That night, the house was getting slapped on the side of the house. Something was running across the roof, something heavy. Things were getting thrown at the house and things like that. And we finally just kind of covered all the windows with blankets and it quietened it down. So the Saturday after that, it was all normal. Sunday, we had the garden going and I had to go out there after dark to turn it off. So I had a pistol on my hip and had my carbine with me. Um, and it's just a 5.56 carbine, nothing special, but it at least has a decent light on it and everything. So I had that with me. I went out there and turned it off and I could smell it. So it's like, all right, I know you're here. Where are you? I start scanning around and I see it. It's probably about 75 to 100 yards away from me on the other side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
It is on all fours. It's looking right at me. It stands up and it charges me. It full blown charges me. And whenever I say it crossed 50 yards within a matter of a few seconds. It crossed 50 yards in the time it took me to take 3 steps forward and drop to one knee into a
Oh my.
shooter stance.
Yeah.
Whenever I did that, it was 25 yards from me, so 75 foot, just on the other side of my fence. And that apparently made it pause and go, what in the world just happened? Long enough for me to see that it was very clearly a male. It had its genitalia and everything hanging right there in plain view. And since I didn't have luck whenever I shot it in the chest and the head, I'm assuming that their bone density was just too tight for that 40 caliber to work on that. So I always go off the theory that it doesn't matter how big you are. If you get hit in the groin, you're going down. That did work. I shot it
Mm-hmm.
right in its male parts. It let out a howl. It started thrashing around on the ground, kind of like a coyote does whenever you wound it, and almost nipping at where I shot it. So I
Mm-hmm.
put 3 more shots into it, into the abdomen. I was going for spleen, pancreas. I was going for soft tissue, slow kills, just because I know those would work. It'll bleed out eventually once the adrenaline runs off of it. Um, then put another shot. I had a clear shot for the neck, so I went for that. Whenever I did that, it finally got its feet underneath it, and it took off straight away from me. And me being the type of person I am, I put 2 more shots straight up Main Street, um, trying to see if I could get one to go towards the chest cavity, the long route. It was not running very good. It was definitely wounded. There was a little bit of blood over there, but I was not about to start tracking a wounded animal.
Mm-hmm.
That's never a good idea. I don't care what it is. I've dealt with a bobcat. I've seen what a wounded bobcat would do. I've seen what a wounded mountain lion would do. I'm not about to go after something that's easily 300 to 400 pounds.
John,
Mm-hmm.
did it take off on fours or on bipedal on two?
It took off on all fours. It was running away on all four. Um,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a single problem for the next week. Absolutely nothing. Didn't hear anything, so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, it took off. It got into one of those buildings and it bled to death. That was my hope. Um, the next Saturday, wife and I are outside working. I'm on the tractor. She's in the garden, and she says she can hear somebody working around an abandoned house that's over on that other property, which has a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of little outbuildings. And she heard a scream. We can only assume that they ran into this thing. It could have been they ran into a skunk. They could have been run into a snake. But either way, it was a scream of sheer terror. And 4 gunshots. After the 4 gunshots, it was total silence over there. There was not a sound, not one. Um, she told me that. I went to where I could kind of put a glass on it. I could see a truck over there with the door open. No movement, nobody around or anything else. There was just a pickup truck with the door open. Couldn't see any blood, couldn't see anybody on the ground, nothing else. So it was just one of those things like, okay, well, maybe they, you know, we're going to chalk it up to the natural event. Next day, that truck's still there. Door still open. Okay, that's a little more strange. That's still this situation. I'm not going over there. I'm undermanned. No. The following Monday, whenever I was leaving out for work, bright and early in the morning, before the sun's up, there are 3 black SUVs pulling into the driveway going to that house off of the Farm and Market Road. And the person closing the gate behind them, full kit, and definitely the look of don't you dare stop.
Oh my God.
So I keep on driving, period. Um, don't see him later that day. A few days later, I'm outside, or I get home. Whenever I get home, I get out of my uniform. I usually put shorts on or something like that. It was a hot day, and I actually decided to opt for a kilt for some reason that day, just I guess for the extra breeze. And I happened to see a reflection like somebody glassed me. Like, okay. And so looking out of the corner of my eye without making it obvious that I saw this, I can kind of see the shadow of somebody laying prone underneath the tree cover over there towards that house, which it's easily 200, 300 yards. So, it could have easily been mistaken, but there's never been a reflection there before. And just to send things home and for it to kind of look like I really didn't see anything over there, I ease over towards that direction. And since the wind's not blowing that direction, that's where I lift up my kilt and mark my territory. So I figure if they're going to be recording me, they're going to get a show. Next day, I see the backside of one black SUV going over the hill on the other side of my place, but still on that neighboring property. It surrounds me on three sides. But it was going over the hill, going down to the bigger creek that's down in the bottom, and a lot more heavily wooded. I don't know if there's three of them on that one or not, or if it was the same thing, but it definitely looked like the same make and model. So that was kind of that.
So nobody ever came to your house, like the guys that were out there?
Nope.
Nobody ever came to question you about anything, if you heard anything on your property, and you've never seen any vehicles parked outside of your house, either following you around or anything?
Oh, no. For them to get to me, they're going to be trespassing.
What about like neighbors in the town? Nobody talking about anything at all? Anybody hear anything?
So the old farmer that leases the property around me, his hand saw something that he didn't know quite what it was. He thought it was just like a big coyote, or possibly a bear. He just kind of caught a glimpse of it running through the trees down in the woods back there. But that's about it. There's been a couple of situations further down that big creek line, more, if the way the crow flies, maybe 15 miles. There was a herd of sheep that was just slaughtered. They weren't eaten. There was nothing missing from them. Something ripped their necks out. There's been pets that have gone missing, and they'll find half of them here or there, and that's about it.
Okay. So I guess basically you had also talked about this tree. Can you tell us the significance about the tree? Because I don't know if you were telling us before. I think you were saying it was like a portal, and there's some type of strange phenomena or strange eerie feeling that you get around this particular tree. Can you talk about that?
So down in the woods back over there, I used to have permission before the property was sold to go back in there whenever I was younger. So we'd spend a lot of time down in those woods. I mean, a lot of time. We were finding unmarked graves and everything else from the 1800s, along with some Indian artifacts. And not too far from these two graves that are on the creek, there's a little clearing in the woods that at the time there was nothing in there except for this one bodark or Asadio orange, whatever you want to call it. There's this one tree by itself, and the canopy went all the way to the ground. And there was a trail that went into it through essentially a little tunnel. Whenever you were down there, just the hairs on your arm would stick up. Very weird, staticky feeling, very strange, like creepy. And me not being the brightest, I decided to crawl under it. Whenever I did, it felt like you were in soup. What the tree is, I don't know. It could be a portal, could be something. I don't know for certain. I would love to really know and understand that stuff, but it's well above my comprehension. Got under there, it kind of had a little bit of different hue. The longer I was under there, the more it sounded like there was just millions of voices around me, just saying all kinds of things I could not understand, like almost foreign languages. There were marks that were carved into the tree that were would have easily been carved into it a long time ago. That they were already kind of scarred over. Not knowing what they were at that time, later on I found out that they were essentially runes,
Mm-hmm.
and how runes ended up in North Texas on a tree, I have no earthly idea. Especially considering that there's not really been anybody in the area, aside from my family and some of the other families that were in the area over the past 150 years. Although this area, there was a pretty heavy cattle trail that went through here, and the Comanches used it for an ambush area. So there's no telling. I mean, there could have been some Norse settlers or something like that traveled through. I don't know. I thought I was under the tree for
Now,
five.
was that the tree? No, go ahead. I'll ask
Yeah,
you after. What were you going to say?
yeah. So I thought I was under that tree for maybe 5-10 minutes tops. My friends that were outside
Mm-hmm.
told me I was under there for 45 minutes whenever I came out. When I came out, I had little cuts all over my body, like just little scratches, like I'd gotten in a fight with a barbed wire fence.
Okay.
And
Now, that particular tree, was that the tree that you found the those black claws embedded in?
nope, nope.
Can you tell
That
us,
tree's on my
tell everybody
property right
about that?
next. Yeah, so um, next to my feeder, I was moving the game camera, and I happened to look down, and I see 4 claw marks, like something just kind of walked by and dragged its claws across it. They're spaced about 2 to 3 inches apart. The width of the claw would have been about a half-inch width,
Mm-hmm.
and there was also one that was broken off into the tree. Whenever I pulled it out and sent it off to Jody, it um, it kind of came into pieces. We looked at it under the microscope. It was definitely had similarities to canine with a fungal infection. It was very much a keratin, and unfortunately, there was just not enough to get a DNA sample from what we understand. But that was definitely an interesting find.
That is interesting. Nick, I remember when I had you on the show before, when I was talking to you, I believe you had said, like, if you ever find any DNA evidence or anything at all, don't send it off. What did you say? You said not to send it off
Not
to.
off to the Smithsonian. Don't give it to the U.S. government of any sort. I've been going to a private veterinarian who uses a DNA type of testing, I should put, that is worldwide. It's almost like a gigantic data bank that they have. It's like Interpol with all the criminals. Well, this is animals of all sorts and all kinds throughout the world, and it cost me about $245 or $275 to get something put through. But it's well worth it because at least I know I'm going to get it back. You send it to the Smithsonian, and they're going to say it never arrived. So
Yeah, and like I said, I'd sent it to Jody, and he had taken it to a lab that he was going to use. So I don't know on that. He doesn't know on it. That we were just told that it was not enough there to test and get DNA on. So
Okay. So was the encounter that you just told me about a few minutes ago, was that the last or the latest of what's happened lately?
well, uh, no, like I said, we started trying the experiments, and that's whenever we found out that they liked the music. We'll play the radio or the stereo outside, and you'll see them moving around in the tree line across the field. And then this morning, after I left out for work, actually before I left out, my dog was outside growling at something whenever I let him out, and I went out and checked, couldn't see anything. He was on red alert, could not see anything outside. I'm like, okay, whatever. Um, I actually rode a motorcycle to work today, which would be rather easy for them to try to hit me.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm crazy enough, I'll ride it straight into them. But shortly after, apparently my wife said she heard me hollering her name from outside. Like it was my voice yelling her name for her to come out
Mm-hmm.
to help me, like I was in distress.
Right.
Of course, then she looks at her phone and the Find My Friend app and sees that I'm about to pull into work. What does she do? She goes to the door, cracks it open, says, "Not today. Try again after daylight." So she's just she she don't even care. She just kind of looks at this thing as it's something else to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't let it run her life or anything else. She's going to continue to do everything like she did before, and I'm pretty much the same way too. Only difference is instead of just only carrying a pistol with me, I carry a rifle at the same time, but I always kept one in the truck anyways for coyotes.
Mhm.
So we haven't had to change our life too much. It's just watch a little bit closer.
Now, Bettina, I would say that voice imitation that his wife heard, that's more Sasquatchy. I've never heard any of the reports that I've taken or any time I've investigated a Dogman doing that. That's
Mm-hmm.
thought.
It
So I'm just wondering if he has maybe a little family in the area. What do you think?
that I'm not sure on, but I've got a lot of other paranormal stuff that happens. So
I was gonna
there,
say, like, I have heard that, but it's very few and far between. I think I've only probably heard that one time. One other time where I heard somebody say that the dog men have the ability to mimic people's voices. And I'm not sure. I don't know. It's just so weird because when you hear different things about like how John was talking earlier, and he was saying that it basically at one point when he pointed that laser at it, how the other one was laughing or smiling. Some of the different tendencies that they have are somewhat, I don't know, like a different intelligent or humanistic in their characteristics. But then it makes you also kind of wonder about their vocals. Like, are they do they would they have the ability to speak or anything like? It's
yeah.
just strange.
And the
Yeah.
whole situation this morning might have not been it. It very well could have just been one of the normal spooks around here. Um, there's as far as the paranormal stuff goes, that happens all the time. That's almost a daily occurrence around here.
John, did you mention to me something about when your wife was running the hay baler or
Oh
hay
yeah,
making something?
yeah.
Tell us
So
about that.
last Saturday she was down there cutting hay. My allergies were so bad I couldn't do it, so she was doing it. I was about to take and put a cattle tub out for the cows, and so I went out to the truck and I looked down and I'm like, why is my mule at the pond?
Huh.
Because
Hmm.
it was the same color, a dark brownish red, about the same size. I'm like, why is my mule at the pond? How did she get out of her pen, and what's going on here? So then I go to drive the truck around the house and to go see what's going on, and there she is at the gate closest to the house with her butt against the gate, staring down at the pond. And the other three horses are right next to her on the outside of the fence because they roam loose on the property, and they're staring at the pond. Like, oh, okay. Apparently he didn't die because it's the same color as that young male. And I'm going to guess that with the wife cutting the hay, it woke him up and run him out of the area he's at, and he decided he was going to move to a different area and got a drink along the way. But I drove nice and slow whenever I went by the pond, hoping maybe I'd get another shot at him. But couldn't see him. He'd already disappeared, was hiding somewhere.
John, you
Now,
think?
Nick, no,
John,
go ahead, Nick. I'm sorry.
John, would you be thinking about upgrading your pistol to a 10 millimeter and maybe your rifle up to a 308 or a 30-06?
Uh, I've got those.
Well,
Uh,
I'm
Hmm.
going to tell you right now, a Dogman, a Sasquatch, just like a brown bear, their bones are extremely thick.
Yeah.
Which includes their chest cavity area. So you're shooting them in the chest, shooting them in the arm. You're not going to be doing too much. Hit them in the skull area. That's going to be thick also.
Yeah, I already learned that. That's the reason why I was going for soft tissue.
Yeah.
If I can hit that femoral artery in the inner thigh, I'm pretty happy. But as far as that goes, I have better control with the firearms I'm using. I actually just switched back over to a 45 ACP, my FNX, and I'm running the 45 plus Ps in it. So they're a pretty hot round. The rifles, I've switched over to the 7.62 by 39. For the most part, I'll still run with my other carbine, which is 5.56. My wife uses a 308. She's got her HK91. I've got an FN FAL that I'll tote around, but it's just not that maneuverable. The 308s aren't until I can find a decent price on a AR-10 pistol style.
If you can get one with an 18-inch barrel, that'll be pretty maneuverable.
Yeah, I tend to like the 16-inch barrel or less on most of my stuff because it was, for the most part, whenever I was running, what I was using for wild pigs and everything else was a Scorpion, the CZ Scorpion Evo 3, and a pistol with a brace, just because I like compact, easy to maneuver, easy to put where you need it, very little recoil, and I could put a lot of rounds out. And I mean, I've managed to take down 15, 16 pigs in one night. So, but with this one, I kind of went for something with a little better penetration. I alternate the rounds. I have ballistic tip, hollow point, full metal jacket to steel core that alternate through the magazine. So one of them's going to punch through. Other than that, I do have some 30-06 black tip, which is the steel core. That's kind of my long range stuff. So if I do see it, I've got it at the ready.
Well, it seems like you're going to need all that stuff because if there's construction going on in the area, they're just being pushed. And it looks like they're being pushed towards your area until they start doing more construction right in your area, in which case they'll start passing you by.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it seems like what the situation is. I mean,
Nick, I was going to ask you, what do you suggest for somebody to do if they're having aggressive type experiences or encounters at their home? What do you usually tell people if you go out to help them on investigations?
Well, what we've done, I know a lot of people poo-poo it, in favor of the firearms, but the firearms aren't going to work unless you're using a 200 grain ammo and you're hitting them in the right spots and you're knocking them out. We did up in Arkansas at the, they had a club up there that we were called to. What we did in upstate New York when we were called to this lady's house, she said it was Dogman, but it was Sasquatch. And what we've done a lot of times is we've spread out cayenne red pepper all over the place. And I'm talking about a couple gallons of it. You put the pepper out on the area, and if it rains, you got to go and do it again. You definitely want to annoy them enough. I think, John, you said something about when your wife was doing the hay that they weren't hanging around that much because of the possibility it annoys them.
Yeah, the noise gets after them.
Hay,
It definitely interrupts their nap time.
Yeah, because they're sleeping during the daytime. You guys are working during those hours, so they're really going to get ticked. And it sounds like they're just taking up roots in your area until they're going to be pushed. Now, is there any plans on that place next door to yours to be sold to developers?
The developer owns it now. It's just a matter of them starting to break ground, and that's probably 2 to 3 years down the road.
Okay. Well, in that case, you got a couple of years there where you're going to have to figure something out, and everybody stay safe.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's just kind of one of those things. Like I said, we always have our weapons. Um, I mean, my wife's favorite sidearm is a 410 Judge, and her theory on that is she's going to aim for the head. She, very least, she's going to blind it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it if it can't see you, it can't get you. I mean, it's going to be able to smell you and everything else, but
Mm-hmm.
typically we were always told if you take somebody's eyes out, they're going to be in so much pain they're not going to be able to function. At least not for a little while.
And
Yeah.
y'all go ahead and start getting your questions ready. We're still going to keep going with the show, but if y'all got questions, make sure you put your questions in all caps for the guests. Go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say that's a possibility. It could be true, but I've read many accounts where people have injured a bear or even a mountain lion, in the head, and the thing just kept coming and coming.
Oh yeah,
Especially with a bear. And in
yeah.
this case, with a Dogman or maybe possibly a Sasquatch, you injure it in the head, it still has its nose to smell you, and it's
Well,
probably going to just keep on coming if it gets mad enough.
the way she's got it
Mm-hmm.
loaded, she's got basically 2 shot shells in it, and then the next 3 are 45 long Colt with 250 grain chunk of lead. So, and she can shoot. She can do 3-gun competition.
No,
So, yeah, there's no problem on that. I taught her how to shoot when she first moved out here. We can both do 3-gun. We work very well as a team. I taught her how to do the sweeping. We've had to do room clear. We've had to do building clear. I used to kick doors down. I mean, it's one of those things. I taught her how to do all of that. We've had issues in situations out here where we've had to run those drills through all of our outbuildings just because of fugitives and stuff like that that have gotten loose around here and manhunts and stuff. So I've had as much, if not more, training than a lot of the sheriff's department. It's just kind of, I'm pretty much on my own, me and her. So we watch it and we cover it.
Okay. Somebody was wanting to know in the chat. I guess this is just a general question. Nick, have you heard of any? Six Strings wants to know, to anyone that can answer, has there ever been an encounter in Puerto Rico?
Not that I've heard of, actually. No.
I don't think I have either. All right, y'all. Any more questions? Y'all get y'all's last questions ready. Does anybody have any questions for Nick, or any more questions for John? Let me scroll back up because I think I might have missed some earlier. Now, Nick, what do you? What do you feel like these creatures are? I think we've talked about this before, and there's several different theories on them being flesh and blood, or just Nephilim, or supernatural, interdimensional beings. What is your take on these creatures,
Well,
Dogman?
in the beginning, going back to 2013 when I had my encounter, I actually thought, and after that, all the reports that I've read and everything, I've actually had the mind that they are flesh and blood, because if I could smell it, if I see it has to eat, and a couple of reports of people firing, rifle slugs at them and actually making them bleed. So if it can bleed, it's got to be flesh and blood. However, that doesn't mean that they are from this world. I mean, I'm trying to expand and think outside the box, because at first I thought, well, maybe they're just something that belonged here. It's a possibility that they came here a while ago. They've just been hiding out because there's not a lot of them. It's a possibility they could have come through a portal, because there's other dimensions, and it's possible that they go through a portal and they come back out of a portal. It's also possible that they might be an alien species. I can't say it's impossible. It's a direct possibility. I mean, because look at Sasquatch, how easily they avoid people. You know, you see them 1 second and there's footprints, and the next they're missing. As I've said many a times, where the footprint ends, there's a footprint in the field, and then it just stops. Where did they go?
Absolutely.
Did they go through a portal? Did they go up into possibly a spacecraft? These are questions I'm trying to find out.
And those are very good questions, because you see that with Bigfoot also, and a lot of the time. So that's my thing, or my feeling on it. I feel strange about it when I hear people say that they're only flesh and blood, because when you can't explain, I do think they are flesh and blood, but I also think that they are also paranormal or supernatural at the same time, because of things like Nick just mentioned, or the mind speak, which you hear people talk about a lot. Their speed and their strength, their ability to jump, 30, 40 feet. I mean, it's just not natural. They do things that other things don't do. And I'm not talking about like the ability to camouflage and match within your surroundings, which they can definitely do that too. But the cloaking, or the other thing I like to call the predator effect, because I've seen them in that stance too. So it's just really weird. There's no explanation. Now, I did hear somebody, I think I was actually doing an interview a few days ago, and a guy told me that he has seen them or heard of them before actually removing their footprints as they went along. I don't know how that's possible, if it's some kind of magical, supernatural way that they do it, or if they're, I have no idea. But have you ever heard of them removing their footprints or trying to hide or cover them up, Nick?
One lady was talking to me about that about, oh God, a half a year ago, and she was telling me that they are from the supernatural realm. You know, so that would be a paranormal aspect to a dogman, if that's in fact what they are, or a paranormal aspect to a Sasquatch, Bigfoot. Uh, I don't know. I lean the other way, that it's possibly a dimensional type of thing, that they're going to a portal rather than removing footprints. I mean, what would be the sense in doing it? You know, if you're supernatural, then why not just disappear right there? Why leave a trail? It just doesn't make sense.
I lean more towards the portal idea. I have my own theories on it, just kind of through my faith. Um, my thoughts on it is more so it's all tied to Loki. Um, in the Norse mythology, especially considering that I found those runes down there on that tree, um, that kind of started me off on that path. But the mythology behind it is that the Jotun, or the giants, they were able to do all types of different magic, as well as travel between the different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
That they looked all kinds of different ways. At the same time, Loki is known to have done the Great Wolf, Fenrir. Um, he is the parent of it. Fenrir also has its offsprings, which were said to be wolves that could walk on their back legs, that had the strength and the magic of the Jotun. So a lot of the mythology through them and the tales and the sagas and stuff had things that were very much depicted as cryptids through all of it, including the Kraken, and there's Grendel, there's the dragons, there's all of those
Mm-hmm.
other ones that are explained, and generally anything bad, it's always blamed on Loki. Or anything mischievous or anything like that. But the descriptions of them and the descriptions of their ability, so say they are able to go through a portal and go to a different world, that is something very much of theirs, and they're always tied to a type of tree. Obviously, the world tree, Jägersdrill, the 9 worlds are on that. So everything's kind of tied to that. So portals, kind of the reason why I feel like that tree might
Mm-hmm.
be a portal, is just because of that. And like I said, whenever time seems to slip and disappear whenever you're under it and everything else, it's very weird. I can't explain
I'm
it.
gonna,
It's well above my comprehension,
Right.
but it would
I'm gonna
also
take a
put it.
question real quick, John. There's somebody that's
Yeah,
been waiting for a while to ask you a question. They wanted to know the neighbor incident with the three black SUVs. Was there someone found dead with the truck sitting there with the door open a couple of days or
nothing
more
was ever
later?
reported.
You didn't get
Yeah,
any information on that at all, John? Nothing?
Nothing. Never found anything out on it.
Have you passed there since then, or
Yep.
is the truck gone?
Yeah. Truck's gone. There
Yeah.
was a tow truck that went in there a few days later.
D. Robinson wants to know, John, have you had any strange things happen in your home since your encounters? Any strange or paranormal type things happen in your home?
Inside your home, in other
I
words.
have had paranormal happening in my home since I was a baby. So, um, not much difference. One of the days my wife was here alone, something kept on moving one of the doors and everything else. And then it would move one of the swords that was on the wall. It's just decoration. And she went and, like, okay, she was going in and out. And whenever she was trying to go out, like, stuff would
Now,
move, noises, those things. But there's shadows, stuff like that. That's normal.
now, do you think, Nick, that there's some type of correlation between like paranormal activity and or UFOs, alien experiences, any of that kind of stuff as it relates to Dogman and cryptids? Because to me, I've found that in doing several shows and interviewing several eyewitnesses and putting a lot of common denominators together, there's some tie with all of this stuff to some degree. It's all almost intertwined somewhat. What do you think about that?
I'm thinking there has to be some sort of a connection. Um, I don't know if all three, but I do. I'm leaning towards the cryptids being with the portals from another dimension. And like I said before, also possibly alien race from other planets coming here. So it's one or the other there. I mean, for some reason, they're here. If you go back in time, there have been drawings on caves. The Native Americans have drawn figures of dogmen. I have really not seen a lot of drawings of Sasquatch, Bigfoot, however, going back to the times of the Egyptians, big hairy creatures like that, or for the Native Americans to make any drawings about those. So it really is a quagmire of questions here, to delve into and to try to unscramble for us to understand what is actually going on. There's
Oh
just
yeah.
so much. It's either the portals going to another dimension, alien. Some people are leaning towards the paranormal, but like I said, if you have paranormal powers, why would you leave footprints and then just disappear? Just disappear
And
right there, you know? So,
absolutely. And why the need to hide behind trees and behind bushes and stuff like that? Why hide at all? Because of their size, their strength, you would think that there's no reason for you to hide. You're like the apex predator. I mean, really, for the most part, unless it's another one of them or a Sasquatch or something like that to their same power, would be able to take them out other than humans, I guess, with guns. But a majority of the time, a lot of the guns or gunpowder doesn't usually work. It takes several shots, or I guess maybe hit for you to hit them in certain areas to even be able to take them out in the first place. And it's kind of scary because when you think about, I guess if you're out there and you're hunting, you have hunters. I guess you're out shooting deer and stuff like that, but you're the hunter. You're not the hunted. You're not having to worry about a deer continuing to come charging towards you like a lot of these cases where sometimes a dog man will continue to do so. I've seen a bear charging somebody on what was it, YouTube, and I on this particular video, the guy was outside. He was trying to protect his family. The wife was just able to get into the back door and close it real quick. The husband didn't have a chance, but he had his rifle out there with him, I guess, or shotgun. with him at that time, and he was able to drop to one knee and take it out. Luckily, I guess he got a headshot on that and took it out immediately. But just imagine, like, looking at the speed of that, you can just imagine the fear that you're going to have when trying to take something like that out. You're not going to be thinking as rationally. I think you'd have a shaky hand. It's just terrifying when you really think about it.
A lot of people would have a shaky hand in that type of a situation. You're correct. And
Most people would.
as, as I've
Mm-hmm.
as I've said, and you can prove this just by going on YouTube or anything on the internet. A large
Mm-hmm.
brown bear or grizzly can go from 0 to 50 miles an hour in 3 seconds. I mean, yeah, they're big, but they're very, very, very strong. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just something that's you have to be prepared for.
One of my favorite type of hunts is actually wild hogs, and that's because you don't know if they're going to run away from you or they're going to charge you. And a wild hog will flat out kill a person.
That's a fact.
And
Yep.
I've been in the middle of a group of 20 or 30 of them. So, and I mean, I've had them where the last one I dropped, it was landed 3 foot from me.
Now,
So,
Eddie Rodriguez has a question for y'all. If they are supernatural, what do you think their purpose is for visiting this realm? I'm gonna answer that real quick, and then I want y'all each one to answer your thoughts on that. You may not think it's supernatural. I think it's both, but my view on that is that really, if you look at the situation, and if it is strictly supernatural, I don't think it's strictly supernatural, but they're not the only supernatural beings that are in this realm. So it's kind of the question. I mean, it's kind of one of those things to where the disembodied spirit or Nephilim, a ghost or demon or angel or anything else that's of this realm is a supernatural being. So when you look at it like that, there's already supernatural beings that visit this realm every day or that are always here in our dimension. That's just my thoughts on that. What do you think, Nick?
Well, supernatural beings. Why would they visit here? Maybe they were called here. Maybe there was a portal that was ripped open and they got through. Um, just like the light waves, we can only see about 10% of all light waves. How do I know there's not something standing next to me right here and floating around there that I can't see? But it can't touch me and I can't touch it. However, it could be here. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Dogman could be from an alien race, and they could put them down here on Earth as forward operating soldiers to see what we have. They could have been left here and forgotten. The same with the spirits; they somehow came here. I mean, we like to explore other planets. What's to say that spirits are not trying to go someplace else themselves? We don't know if they're good. We don't know if they're bad. But you know, with more research and God willing, someday we'll find out.
Absolutely. I got another question from the chat for you, John. Jan Gill wants to know: has anyone been reported missing from any of the incidents or anything around your area where you've heard of missing people, or have you ever talked to any neighbors since this started? That's a good question.
like I said, the guy leasing the place, his ranch hand saw something that he didn't know what it was, just thought it was a big dog, his dog or bear or something. Took off through the woods. Um, so far, it's just been missing pets, um, and then of course a decline in the wildlife. A lot less coyotes than what we used to have. A lot less deer. A lot less wild hogs. Um, so for now, it's pretty well kind of staying with that. It hasn't affected my wildlife, probably just because of how aggressive I've been towards it. But it's also keeping a close eye on me and looking for
Mm-hmm.
a good chance or for me to have my guard down. And it,
All right. Well,
Well,
that I agree
just
with you.
before we get to the other question here, and I want to say hi to Ann. I know Ann. John, have the police, sheriff, or whatever that you have out there ever come up to your farm, your area over there, and ask questions or given you any information in the last year about people being missing, about any incidents going on?
So no missing. Whenever I asked a game warden if there's been any bear sightings in the area, he just kind of looks at me and goes, "Why? What do you know? What have you seen something?" And of course, my answer to that was, "Nope, not a thing. I was just curious."
Now, do you have bear in that area?
No,
I didn't think so.
Are there bear in Texas at all? I didn't know. Are there?
on the East Coast or
Yeah,
on the East Side.
going that way, but not where he is. He's more north central, right?
Yep.
All
I
right.
mean,
And what kind of bear do you have out there? Is it the black bear or brown bear?
black.
All right, so they would be a lot smaller.
Yep. I've run into them up in Oklahoma. Towards Arkansas, Oklahoma.
Okay, my phone. Now, Anne Celine wants to know: do you think there are connections between the ancient Egyptian dogman and UFOs?
We've
What are your
talked about
thoughts?
that, Bettina. What do you think?
I think, I've argued with a few of my friends before, but I mean, I feel like there's nothing new under the sun. I feel like that these chimeras or Nephilim or whatever they are, whatever these creatures are, I believe that they've been here for thousands of years. I think that your Greek mythology, your ancient civilizations, even back to Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu, and all that kind of stuff. Edgar Casey brought it up when he was talking about beings that lived in Atlantis having animal appendages, and I mean, this stuff is not brand new. I mean, all the civilizations all over the world, Native American cultures, everybody has talked about these half man, half beast type creatures. The Minotaur, like Goat Man, we call it Goat Man today, but then I think that was called the Satyr in ancient times. Reptilians today, I mean, these things have always been around. I just think that, yeah, there is a tie between all these things. I think that they're all ancient. I think they've all been here, and I do think that at different times, in different places in time, I think that they also kind of, I don't know, I think they cross paths. And that's my thoughts on it. Now, I know as far as Dogman are concerned, I think that Dogman and Bigfoot, I think that they have been spotted at the same time when there have been lights in the sky or UFOs spotted. So that's all I can say about that. I do know that a lot of people who've had Dogman and Bigfoot encounters have also seen UFOs as well. That's my story as well. I mean, I've seen that.
Yes,
Didn't you say the same thing, Nick?
yeah, that's quite true. I did a 6 month study on that, and 92% of the people that had an encounter or a sighting said that they did see some form of a UFO before, after, or before and after seeing a Bigfoot or seeing a Dogman. So that's a distinct possibility. Now, just getting back to the times before the Egyptians, before the pyramids were built and everything, you had the cavemen, and a lot of the caves that we've found and discovered, there were drawings on the walls, and the drawings on the walls sure do look familiar. I mean, they saw an elephant of some sort. They drew the elephant. They saw an alien,
Yes.
a funky shaped head. They drew it. Nobody told them to draw it. It wasn't in their imagination.
Mm-hmm.
They were they saw horses and they drew horse-like figures. So
Yes.
why would they do that? And then my other thought is the pyramids. Okay, you got them over in Egypt. You have them in South America, right? The Incas and the Mayans, and you have them in. How the heck did they ever
Absolutely.
make those giant pyramids? And the Sphinx, that is a work of art. You know,
Yes.
I mean, how did they? Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly put all this together.
I
How did,
agree.
they had to get
That
help. They had to cheat. I'm sorry, they had to cheat.
No, I like that. And I said the exact same thing. People are not just. I mean, if they weren't seeing these things, if none of this stuff really existed, they're not going to just imagine something up like that in their mind. I mean, you're thinking about 10, 20, 30,000 years ago, or maybe even less than that. But they're depicting, like Nick was saying, I feel like they're depicting what they saw. I mean,
Yeah.
if you've never seen the ancient times, ancient people, like way back when they said they didn't have the technology that we have today, who would conjure up in their head, you know what? Let me just draw a picture on this wall right now of a man with a goat's body at the bottom. I mean, who
Yeah.
would think of that if that's not something that they've already seen?
Or even better yet, let me draw a flying saucer. Seriously? Come on. They're running around in lion cloths and stuff like that way, way, way back when. This is before
Absolutely.
the Egyptians, before all this stuff happened, and they're putting this on cave walls. I mean,
Hmm.
you just can't make this stuff up. And these people didn't have that kind of imagination. Oh, I saw it. Let me draw it before I forget. I mean, seriously, next to pictures of spears, next to pictures of bow and arrows that they made. Uh, like I said, horses. Uh, there's pictures of ducks on the walls. I have a friend of mine who's
Absolutely.
an archaeologist, and he was showing me the pictures that he took in these caves, and it's absolutely amazing and astounding that they would have done this. So yeah, something's going on that we're not clued into yet, or possibly our government is clued in, but we don't know anything about it because they don't want to put it out there. They don't want to scare us all to death. You know,
Uh huh.
former President Clinton, he as soon as he took office, he demanded to know, what we knew, and they told him, "I'm sorry, sir, but you're not really read in for that. You don't have a clearance. You don't have a need to know." So they didn't let him know. Seriously? Come on. I bet you
Absolutely.
he would have told us.
Yeah, people don't realize there's more things out there. I mean, if you just look at it, our whole everything they told us to me. I mean, I'm the biggest conspiracy theorist out there. They didn't lie to us about so much. They've
Oh,
lied to us about so much history, even not just cryptids, history. That's why they like I like to say sometimes not everything in history is a lie, but there's been you know things that have been lied about in history, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I will say that as far as these creatures are concerned, yes, they know these creatures are here. They've known this since the beginning of the time. There's been several different people, presidents, and high-ranking officials, military officials, police officers. Nick himself is a retired police officer. I mean, people have seen these things. There's credible people, not witnesses, have seen these things. And if you just go back, I mean, these things were here when the pharaohs were here. What do you think Anubis is? And some people say, well, no, Anubis was not, that was just somebody depicted with the mask. But even still, even with that, why would you put an animal's head on a human's body?
hmm. Why?
Still.
Why would they do that? I mean, seriously, why would you have a
Hmm.
giant's head on top of a human's body if you didn't actually see it? And then they go on to have other statues that were funny looking too. And why would they do it? Just for
Yep.
decoration? Seriously?
Because they had like Isis and Osiris. I think Isis was like a bird like
Hawk.
creature, a hawk, and then you had what was it? Horus. Was he a hawk or he was some other type of bird creature too? And I don't remember what it was now, but it's so
I'm
many
not up
different
on
ones.
my Egyptian mythology. I know there's Thorn, which was like a stork. That was for knowledge. Horus, Orion, Ra, um,
I mean, you remember Sobek?
Satur.
That was yeah. Sobek was the one that was like the alligator headed god, and I guess and this is another thing I wanted to bring up to y'all too, because when I look at that aspect of that, when it comes to people gifting Bigfoot and Dogman, that's no different than what people were doing back in ancient times. They were giving offerings to these beings or creatures, but today we call it gifting. Same thing. I mean, that's just my theory on it. I could be completely wrong, but what's the difference? You're taking gifts out there, or marbles, or food, and you setting stuff out there for them, and then coming back a few days later to see if they've taken it. That's appeasing them. And when I guess where you might even call that habituating them to a certain extent. But by doing so, a lot of people are not really taking in consideration what if by doing that you are giving them authority or permission to come to your property. Now, once you stop giving those gifts or offerings, now there's a problem. Now these creatures are coming for you because you've stopped bringing them this food. You've stopped bringing them these gifts. Now they're coming and they're throwing rocks at your house, coming tapping on the windows. This is just, I'm just trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together, and I might be completely wrong, but I look at the whole big picture. What do you think about that, Nick?
I think, as in the case of the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the gifting is, giving them a marble or a shiny coin. I think that's okay if you want to do it. But the food, don't do the food gifting because that's a perishable. That's something that they'll pick up, they'll eat, and then they'll expect it again, in 24 hours. A marble or something shiny, it's something that's, solid. They can have, they can keep. And a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
when people have done that, they've reciprocated and brought them back something. I know a gentleman who's a big Sasquatch researcher, and he brought several very, very shiny gold colored coins. They're foreign coins. He polished them up and he put them in an area, went back the next day, they were gone. And a few days later, he received a matchbox box card. I'm sorry, car. The type they used to that little kids play with the wheels on them, the Hot Wheels or whatever you call them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
where the heck did that come from? Either somebody's messing with him deep in the forest, or I don't know what. But I wanted to get back to something else though, in reference to the government not telling us stuff. Last year, a friend of mine gave me a call and he says, "Listen, I want to meet up with you and have lunch. We'll go to a nice place. It's on him." And he goes, "I want you to meet somebody." And it was actually a big treat for me. Not that he paid for the lunch, but it was a really nice place. But the person we met up with, um, I don't want to tell the branch of service, but the guy flew jets, and this pilot was about a year and a half ago flying one of our U.S. military jets. Is about one Mach 1.8, and he got passed like he was standing still by an object, and he couldn't even get an eyeball on it. All he saw was this thing passing him on his left side, going by. When he got back down, he reported to his commander. He says, "Hey, do the Russians have something that does, Mach 7 or Mach 8 around our airspace?" He goes,
Mm-hmm.
"You guys pick that up?" Yeah, they did pick something up, but only momentarily. Now, seriously, come on. He was doing Mach 1.8 in a jet fighter, and this thing passed them by. They had promised a couple of years back to come out with stuff, but the stuff that they did come out with, Bettina, has been
Mm-hmm.
redacted heavily. There's about 3 million pages. I went and I ordered some of it. I ordered about 500 pages. You got to pay for it. And it was super heavily redacted. I mean, it was a waste of paper.
Wait a minute.
And
You had to pay for what?
I paid for 500 pages, but it was redacted. They blacked out everything that was of importance. It's just,
Mm-mm.
you know, come on. I mean, seriously, we can't handle it. If we're going to be attacked or we're going to be visited, let us know now. We need to prepare now. Why
Mm-hmm.
prepare later? Why say, "Oh, the government's going to prepare for us"? Well, if you were an enemy race and you were going to come here, I would knock out, the military first, and then taking over the
Absolutely.
easy. I don't.
Okay.
Mm.
John, did you have anything you wanted to say? I'm continuing to scroll as y'all talk. I'm just going through here.
No, I'm actually going to have to probably start
Okay.
buttoning things up here pretty soon.
All right. Yeah, we can go ahead and let you go ahead. And I want to thank you so much for well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, being a guest on the show. And so I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and I will contact you again after the show. But thank you so much for coming on tonight and sharing your experiences with us
No
tonight, John.
problem. I'm sure I'll get some more experiences in the future.
Yes, thank you, John, and keep in touch. I'm usually there on Messenger, so
Oh yeah, obviously, if I get anything else good, one
Yep.
thing I would like to say is for all the people that want to ask why we can't ever get a good picture of these things, I have tried with a full blown professional DSL camera that I don't remember how many thousands of dollars this stupid thing cost me. And no matter how much I try, the something around them causes it to be blurry, whether it's a static electricity or
yeah,
just something around them.
air vibration possibly.
I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Yeah, I think they have the ability to cause that. I mean, because there's
yeah,
plenty of people who are professional photographers, and it happens with everybody. It happens with everybody, and I think that they have the ability to cloak. And what you're capturing a lot of the times that with that blurriness is the cloak.
yeah.
That's my
So,
thoughts on it.
and again, I mean that would fall under okay. The Yachtons were
Paranormal.
able to do glimmer, which was a type of, I guess, cloaking,
Mm-hmm.
where it just kind of refracted the light to where they disappeared. Um,
Oh yeah.
so it possible to go with that. So I don't know, but yeah, that's what I've run into. I'll do videos and recordings and stuff like that, and I've got a lot of them that I haven't even put on
Oh yeah. When you get into
Facebook
taking pictures and stuff, there's so many pictures you take, and
because
mm-hmm.
yeah, they just don't come out the way I could see it, and so it's like, all right, well, that's not worth putting on there. So the
Right.
pictures of footprints or the tracks and stuff like that, that's easy. I mean that's right there. That's easy enough. But it's just kind of you can't go. I have not been able to get a decent, clean picture of them at all.
Mm. Well, it happens to the best of us. And I don't think it's us majority of the time. I think it's them. They have that ability. But with that being said, John, we're going to go ahead and say good night. I'm going to get ready to shut this down here in a few more minutes, but I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and we will talk to you later on. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Bye
John.
bye.
Take care.
We'll talk to you.
All right. Nick, did you need to go too? I'm going to take a couple more questions, and then we can shut it down as well.
Okay. I don't
I know.
understand the question here.
Has there ever been people? Have you ever heard of people that's been tagged by Dogman, like in Sasquatch taggings?
I
And
don't know what that means.
what does that mean, Davy Jones Locker? If you're still out there, what does that mean, being tagged? I don't think we understand that question. Man of Light, Greg. Greg wants to know if Dogman and Bigfoot are so nasty, why do they both share the same areas and walk side by side within yards apart and don't do anything to themselves or even a researcher?
No, they don't really play well together at all. In all the research I've done, and that's thousands of reports, I've never heard of Sasquatch and Dogman uh, being partners or buddies or being nice to each other at all. Never. There have been reports of fights between the two of them, but just like in LBL, Land Between the Lakes, Tennessee and Kentucky. Uh, one part of that of LBL is Sasquatch area, the other part is Dogman area, and I really have never heard of
Oh yeah,
Sasquatch
absolutely.
in that area at all.
Okay. Um, I mean, it's a lot of questions tonight. We really appreciate y'all so much. I know Nick is an hour ahead of me. Nick. Did you need to shut it down now?
No, I'm
I'll let
good.
y'all know. You
If
good?
they have
First,
questions, I'll answer them. It's up to
all
you.
right, all right, y'all. And we're gonna go for about 15 more minutes or so. I'm gonna let y'all get because it's a bunch of questions in here, and y'all are asking really great questions, and we really appreciate this. Um, and I'm scrolling back up, and they're still coming in. Now I'm coming to. I just passed a good one a few minutes ago. Hold on, Nick. I'm coming back to it. What were you saying about the LBL though? While I look for that,
Oh, I
people
was
don't
saying,
realize they're still stuff. There's still encounters still happening at the LBL to this day, isn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, when I was there with D.A. Roberts, um, people, well, two hunters that I bumped into, and they actually talked to me about it because the people in Kentucky did not want to talk about it. But these two hunters at a gas station when I was gassing up told me, a couple of things about it, that they were very well aware of them out there, the Dogmen, and they all
Mm-hmm.
we don't go there at night. And I told them, well, that's the time we were going there at, and they really warned me off. They said that they would come in just before, the sun would go down, and they would come in and they wouldn't do any night hunting. So they're, but by all in all, out there in that area, they don't want to talk about it at all.
Oh no, they don't. Um, Let me make sure I don't miss out on anything good. Um, have you heard anything? This question was for me, but I don't know. I've heard of lizard men or reptilians, but I've never seen them, and I don't know too much about it. I have some theories on that, but I don't know very much about that. The most I ever heard about reptilians and stuff was back when Alex Jones and what was it, David Icke and what was it, Bill Schneider and all those guys back then, Jordan Maxwell, were talking about stuff like that, and I believe it exists. I just don't know very much about it. Nick, have you gotten any people telling you any lizard man or reptilian encounters or sightings at all?
Reptilian encounters. Lizard man, same thing. Basically, I've had reports down in Louisiana and in Florida. Now, I mean, it would make sense, and it wasn't to me directly. It was reported to one of my teams that was down there about a year and a half ago.
Uh-huh.
And a couple of people had made reports of that, and they were wondering if we were down there to investigate, a lizard man report. And my team leader took a pretty good 3-page report from this person, and some other people who were there listening in agreed. He tried to get their first names, but the people just didn't want to do anything. They didn't want to have anything to do with that. But they did agree with the report that the gentleman was giving. It said that it was approximately 7 feet tall, looked like a lizard on 2 legs, but
Oh my
it
God.
dropped down onto 4 legs, but it generally was on 2 legs. And it would reach up to, I guess, plants that are growing in the area that were up high. Now, when I was in Florida, I did see a couple of alligators that were trying to climb over brick walls. So don't think that they can't climb a fence.
Yeah. Did you say alligator? Alligator climbing over the wall?
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen that. I've seen that before.
Like, what the heck? You can't stop these things.
Yeah,
And
when I saw a video of that one time. I can't remember if it was on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook. When I seen that, I was like, mm-mm. Now that's a sad day when trying to climb over a fence is not gonna save you. That's not even gonna save you. And I
yeah,
can't remember if I heard somebody else saying this not too long ago. I think I might have heard this on Lance Hightower's show when he had a guest on there, and the guest was talking about the fact that some dogs that have been trained for, I can't remember what purpose this was for, but some regular dogs have been trained, and some regular dogs can actually climb trees. Or is that weird? I mean, have you ever heard of anything like that? I don't know what he was talking about. I've never heard of that before, and I've never seen that.
no.
Um,
One of my
okay.
members, one of my members actually had an encounter with a reptilian ET. So I'm assuming that it's possibly an alien encounter. But the ones that this gentleman was telling my team leader, it didn't seem to be like that, and it seemed to walk, you know, similar to a human, except it was
Uh-huh.
really large, and it didn't look like, didn't have a long, from the artwork that was given to us. It didn't have one of these alligator big, mouths or anything. It was short. It was short, but the face looked like a gecko. It looked like a gecko, is what they said, only larger and broader. And the fellow said it looked like it weighed about 500 pounds. I mean, that's a pretty big thing.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
well,
All
well,
right.
you know what? You ought to add a little scotch or bourbon to that cigar there while he's listening in, because it's always fun to it's fun to kick back, relax, and be entertained and listen to things and maybe learn a few things.
Absolutely. Y'all may as well kick back and have some good food and a beer or whatever your favorite drink of choice is. Um, because when I get on these shows, y'all, I get relaxed. I try to have a good time. And me and Nick, we kind of vibe and groove pretty well together when we're on the show. I mean, I've had Nick on here as a guest before as well. So I seen a comment, and I can't remember who it was from now, and I don't know if the moderators had removed it, but I think I may have just found it. I think Mid South Sasquatch had said earlier that anybody that claims to have been attacked by a dogman, or I don't know if he was saying dogman or any cryptids, but that if anybody claims to have been attacked and they didn't die, I mean that they're a liar because nobody would survive that. Um, I beg to differ. Well, I'm just gonna say this: I've never been attacked, so I can't say, but I do know that there have been people that have been attacked that were hurt but not killed. Can you speak on that at all, Nick?
No, most of the supposed attacks ended in the person also disappearing. There was human traces of human blood, human skin, clothing, but that was it. The person disappeared, totally disappeared. So that's the research that I've done on it, and I'm going to tell you, thousands of cases, thousands in that
Mm-hmm.
respect, in reference to dogman attacks. Now, on the other hand, Sasquatch has been reported for longer than Dogman has, and there have been many occurrences where people who have been in areas where there were Sasquatch sightings have disappeared, and that's not so unusual. The Native Americans have even spoken on that.
And
Yeah.
not on well, yeah, you're right. And not only that, Nick. I mean, people for that person to come in, I think it was Mid South Sasquatch. Y'all also need to keep in mind that a lot of times during some of these sightings and attacks, for the times that that have gone to the hospital or these secret agencies or whoever these people are, that these people are most of the time threatened and told you saw a bear and you better shut up and not talk about it. You didn't see anything but a bear. I don't care what you say you saw. So you're never people are probably attacked by these. I know that they bluff charge people a lot. They have attacked people. Not everybody dies from it, but you're just not ever going to hear about it because it's going to be either swept under the rug or claimed to be something else.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and they want to keep these things quiet. And why would they redact UFO sightings and even totally deny why a person was injured and taken to the hospital? Uh, like we've had reports over the last couple of years, they're saying packs of wild dogs. Seriously, in this day and age, how many packs of wild dogs are out there? Uh,
Right.
you know, I guess it's in outback areas of the United States, but that's not where these attacks happened. So,
Absolutely.
so somebody from the government or whatever is getting in there and they're talking to people and telling them to keep quiet and here, this is your story. Otherwise, they're going to make your life miserable. Seriously, if that ever happened to me, I guarantee you, I would go to a couple of news agencies, not just
Hmm.
one or two. I'd go to several and I'd give them the story and say, here it is. It's got to come out now because they can't be hiding this all the time. And like you, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I just
Hmm.
want the plain truth to come out. And if it's something that we need to pay attention to and to prepare for, then I wish the government would just come out and let us have it. Let us know what's going on. Because if you got to prepare for something, why not? Um,
Right.
Question here: old school non-digital equipment, Patterson Gimlin. That was a mechanical, yeah. Well,
He said because it was a better camera, that's why it was a better quality video.
well, it was a good video camera that they used. That I think it was what, a Super 8 millimeter. back
Hmm.
then. But I think this gentleman is saying mechanical versus digital, no electronics. Uh, I really don't think that has anything to do with it. The regular film versus a digital. Digital is clearer because I know I used to go to great lengths and I had to spend extra money to buy a roll of film that was high definition film. And all you have to do is buy a tiny little CD card these days. I mean, an SD card that you put in your camera, and you can buy the best one out there at a
Hmm.
maximum speed, and it's not going to cost you more than $50. And I mean, it's well worth it because it shoots at a high resolution. I'm sorry, a super high resolution, and at a maximum speed. So I really think the cameras of today are better. But who's thinking about that? Who's thinking about that? Seriously, I wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking somebody was getting torn up by a dogman, some kind of bear or whatever when I saw it. I mean,
Oh
nowadays,
yeah.
well, nowadays I would call it a dogman. Back then, I thought it was a werewolf. But
Yep.
originally, I thought it was a bear, but I couldn't put two and two together because there's no black bears that are over like 6'2", 6'4" in New Jersey. And this thing was well over 7 feet. And I think you had a sighting yourself,
Hmm.
a personal sighting, and this thing was like 7 feet.
It's
So
about 8.5, 9 feet tall.
I mean,
That.
that's a large creature, and you're not thinking like that. Oh, let me take my camera out. Let's do a selfie. I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Because I mean, half the time you're not going to get the opportunity to get a shot. I mean, like I said, most people got a lock and a passcode in their phone. You got to take your eyes off the creature. Who's going to do all that to go take a picture? Something like that is standing in front of you.
And as Marvin even is putting up here in his comment, yeah, there could be others around you,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to watch your 6, your 9. You got to watch everything. So there's a lot going on out there, and for the average person to see something, they're going to be running back into their car, or they're going to be running away and making themselves look like prey right off the bat. Because the minute you run, they want you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was always told as a kid, if you see a dog, and in my neighborhood you saw dogs roaming around all the time, don't run away from it, because if you do, it's going to chase you. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember friends of mine driving down the street, 8, 9 year olds, and dogs chasing after them on their bicycles, trying to nip at them. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Nick, there's a question for you. They've asked this probably 2 or 3 times, and I don't want to keep letting it go by. But they want to know: do you think Homo sapiens are indigenous to Earth?
I do. I do. I don't think we've come from another planet or anything. I think we started here.
Greg, I don't do
Uh,
a show about the Jersey Devil. I don't know. I'm gonna have. I have never. Not that many people send in stories about the Jersey Devil. I mean, I guess I could research it in
I
depth and do a show.
I've been researching. I had researched that for 6 years straight down in the Pine Barrens, and
Oh,
there's
you
two
went.
different stories to that. I mean, it's one of those stories that if you ever want, we can do a good hour and a half, 2 hours of just information on the Jersey Devil and where
All
it's
right.
and just I think I told you I try to
Mhm.
prove or disprove the cryptids out there, and I proved
Absolutely.
for itself what the Jersey Devil is. But you know what? We should do a special sometimes, Bettina,
We
a
will.
where we're telling something like Josh does, but for
Hmm.
people to get out there in their couches, pull a blanket over there, get some bourbon or coffee and some snacks and popcorn, and give them a 3-4 hour show.
Oh my God.
We could
Well,
do
you know what?
we could
You know
do it.
what? We can do it because if you wanted to shoot, I like that. You know what? I don't know if I'll be able to sit that long, but with at least me and you and maybe another 1 or 2 people on the panel, everybody can get a break.
Yeah, we can
I think
really
that's doable.
really- I mean, if the people want to do it on a dark and stormy night sometime, we got to pick a time where it's raining out and it's dark. Maybe start it at 8 o'clock your time and
Hmm.
8:30 this way it's dark. Tell everybody to get cozy, lock your doors, and get your popcorn ready because we're going to have a good show. We could do it. We could do
Absolutely.
it, really.
Absolutely. Y'all, we're gonna say good night, y'all. We know y'all got questions. I will say this. Let me see what Mid South said real quick, and then after that, Nick, I'm gonna let you tell them about the upcoming conference in
Oh,
August.
yeah.
Mid South Sasquatch was talking to Jan Gilbert. He said he came in late, but I've had one encounter with a Dogman, and if it weren't for four guys on four wheelers showing up fully armed, I would not be here today. I will tell Mid South Sasquatch. I will say this. I do agree with you that there are a lot of dogman attacks, and there are a lot that are aggressive and a lot that gets covered up. Some people are of the belief in the community that they wouldn't harm a fly, and I just don't. That's because that's that one person's experience. That's not everybody's experience. And I think it's kind of dangerous to put that information out there to tell people they wouldn't hurt anybody or they can tell your intentions. I do think that they can tell and sense your intentions, but I also understand too that they are still a wild animal, and if not a wild animal, some other life form that has higher intelligence than a normal natural animal, and they can be just as I think they have different personalities the same way people have personalities or
Oh, yeah.
animals.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I highly agree with you that they are dangerous and you should take them the same way you would a lion or a bear or anything else. That being said, y'all, we're done taking questions for now. We're almost at 2 hours. I'm gonna let Nick basically talk to y'all real quick and just give you the information on the upcoming Dog Paranormal Roundtable Dogman Conference on August the 13th in Paris, Tennessee. Can you just give them the details on that, Nick?
Okay, we're having the very first ever Dogman Encrypted conference, and it's a very special time, and I want to tell you why. Because we're going to have 16 of the current big hitters in cryptozoology today, all gathered in one place. And I have to give credit where it's due. Josh Turner is putting this together. He's from Paranormal Roundtable, and Josh knows all these people. And if it wasn't for his influence, this would not happen. Now, why is this such a big deal? Never before in the history of cryptozoology, in the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s, have you ever had more than two cryptozoologists in one place at one time? We're all going to take a picture together. I understand the hotel wants a 18 by 24 glossy because they want to put up in their lobby way over there. That's part of the whole deal. It's going to be, there's VIP tickets on the 12th of August. That's where you're going to have a dinner with all of us, and you would get a lot of swag and a lot of clothing, hats, all kinds of stuff. And on August 13th of 2022, that's this August 13th, is going to be the conference at the Paris, Tennessee Convention Center.
Okay.
Now, there's a hotel over there. It's going to be free parking. They'll have places where you can get stuff to eat inside the conference center and everything. You'll have a chance to buy things, books, swag, and all that other stuff. And most of all, Bettina and I will be there, of course.
Yeah.
And you'll get to meet all of us, every one of us.
Who's the lineup of guests, Nick?
Oh my God! I'd have to pull up the
well, DA Roberts.
DA Roberts is going to be there. I'll be there. You'll be there. Josh Turner,
Jody,
Nick Redfern, Kyle. He'll be there. I'm trying to bring up the whole thing because I don't want anybody. Ken Gear.
Barton Nonnelly.
Barton Nunley will be there. Yeah, it's
a lot, y'all. It's about 10 people or more.
I'm trying to bring up where is it now? Did you see it advertised every other place?
Now, you shared it in your group too, didn't you, Nick?
I posted it there. Yes, should be. Oh my gosh, there should be several.
K Bowers 8111. While he's looking at that real quick, question for Nick: how does a person seek out witnesses? I've checked around, and most people just laugh it off. I've gotten to where I approach less and less. I'm gonna answer that real quick while Nick's looking, and then if he wants, that'll be the last question we take tonight. But I'll say that I don't know if you are a host of a show or you're just a person that wants to talk to other people because you've had an encounter yourself. If you're part of some of the groups, then you can private message some of the people in there. You will often find, not often, every day in the groups, you'll find somebody in the comments who have had encounters and they are eyewitnesses. So that's how, for me, for the most part, how I get most of the eyewitnesses for my shows. They're people who are members of the groups. They're
Well,
down there, and a lot of them want to share. What do you
also
say?
because of the fact that I've started many groups and I run Region 3 for the North American Dogman Project, I get people either calling me up on the phone, sending me emails, sending me Facebook Messenger messages. I mean, people will call in. Also, when I go out on boots on the ground, to investigate something, I'll have people come up to me. You're not going to get witnesses just flocking to you at all times because they're still afraid of ridicule and people making fun of them.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said many a times, I mean, they could be lawyers or doctors, and who's going to want to come to them then? They're going to be looked upon as a bunch of loony bins.
Absolutely.
By the way, I did find it, and here it goes. Ken Gearhart, Lyle Blackburn, David Weatherly, Josh Turner, Ron Murphy, Barton Nunley, Jody Cook. He's from the NADP. He's our founder. Nick Redfern, Bettina Moss. There she is. Yours truly, Nick Valenti, Kenny Irish, D.A. Roberts, Steve Stockton, Elia Henderson, and Tony Merkel. We're going to take a picture all together, hopefully get everybody to sign it, and I guess they're going to sell them because they can't do it for free. But
Absolutely.
this is going to be something. I mean, I've never before seen all these people in one spot. And
I know. They got an all-star cast. Well, I'm not all-star, but they are all-stars, y'all. Like, they, for whatever reason, they decided to grace me, let me be a part of the inner circle. So
I
humbly
she's
appreciate
too modest.
it.
This one here is too modest. She is a pioneer. She is a
I'm
pioneer
trying.
in cryptozoology. Don't let her fool you, people. She's come out with a lot of great shows and great interviews. So don't let her fool you. But I'm going to be giving a talk. I don't know, Bettina, are you going to be giving a talk also?
One of the panelists.
Oh, you're going to be a panelist? Okay. I'm going to be up there by myself giving a talk, and I'm going to demonstrate a lot of the equipment that I take out there when I go on a boots on the ground field investigation. That's going to protect me both from cryptids, hopefully, paranormal, hopefully, because I carry everything. I carry white salt, black salt, sage, holy water. I mean, you name it. I carry different high-powered lasers. I don't know what's going to come at me out there, and anything I can use. I mean, I've got a right to be out there in the forest 3 miles, 4 miles in, and I have a right to come home safely. That's what I believe. I'm not out there to hunt. I don't want to kill animals, but it's fun being out there, especially 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's super dark, and then it starts raining on you. But what time do cryptids come out? They come out in the dark.
Absolutely. Well, I've seen the comment somebody had made in the group, and they were chastising another member of the group, and they were saying that it was bullshit. They said, "This is bullshit. You mean to tell me that you're having all these sightings and encounters in broad daylight?" Yes, they come out in the daytime just as much as they come out at night. Majority of my majority of my sightings were in the daytime. The first one just happened to be at night, and so they're out there. What majority of the time when y'all get these pictures and you see them in groups, the majority of the pictures are taken in the daytime.
Right.
I mean, I'm just trying to tell people like use some common sense too, because not every and it's always the people who have never had a sighting or encounter at all that want to call bullshit on stuff, and it's ridiculous. I mean, is that the point to where it's like, are we kids? Are we children? I mean, to the point where you have to be told to be respectful to somebody else. I mean, kindness costs nothing. I
Now,
mean, it's like, ain't nobody y'all's mama. Like, I mean, like, you know what? Sit down, be nice to other people. Nobody should have to tell you that. And if you don't have nothing nice to say, then just don't say it at all.
you know what, Bettina? My good friend, I love this guy, Squatch Man, Greg Yost.
Yes.
He had taken during the daytime a group of people out, and he had his back to the forest area, and they were taking pictures of him. And in the background, he was out there for Sasquatch. In the background, he had 3 or 4 dogmen in the picture. in the wooded area, and you could pick them out.
Yes.
When I blew it up on a 65-inch screen, and I enhanced it, and I could actually see the faces, the heads on this Dogman. He was
Are you
at
talking?
Squatch.
Are you talking about that picture with the dog man in the tree with the red eyes?
Um, I don't know about the red eyes, but I know about the features that were shown. I mean, Greg was standing there in the middle,
Oh,
and
okay.
in the background of him was the forest, and you could see the different creatures in the background. I mean, and
Yeah.
Greg was there for Sasquatch. I mean, he is
Oh,
such a good guy. He's such an honest man and everything too. He didn't fake that picture. He didn't even know they were there until somebody.
mhm. All right, y'all, we're getting ready to go. But I agree with you because, like I said, the picture I'm telling you about, and I'll send it to you. You probably already seen it before, but it's Greg's picture that has that dog man in the daytime, red glowing eyes. Great picture. But me and one of my admin of the group actually found like at least 3 or 4 other ones in that same tree, and some of them were cloaked, but they stood out. And it was like, wow. And it's weird how they cluster up, and you'll just see a bunch of them like that. Bama Bigfoot said, just went along with what I just said and said, I don't go out at night because of what I see during the day. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I was trying to tell Nick Valenti. Tell Nick Valenti, no, and they talking about going out in the LBL with no weapons.
I want to leave you. I want to leave you with a good saying. People are not really afraid of being alone in the dark. People are actually afraid when they're in the dark of having things out there, while and not being alone. So there's a big difference. They don't want to be out there, alone. And when something is out there creeping around, then they're like, "Oh God, what is it?" You never know what it is. Though. It could be a regular animal.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, we want to thank y'all so much for coming and enjoying the show with us tonight. Nick will be back on. Greg, you had mentioned that you wanted me to do a show on the Jersey Devil, but I will have Nick Valente to come back and he will discuss the Jersey Devil.
Only
Because I don't know. No.
I'll co-host it with you, and we'll do a good one for them.
All right, thank you so much. Good night, you guys. And if y'all have any more questions that I didn't get to tonight, Nick's group is North American Dogman Project Region 3. Region 3, and then he's also a member of my group, Crypto Normal Encounters with B Moss. Y'all check out both groups. If you have questions for him, I'll make a post. Actually, y'all can go to the post that I made in the group earlier today for the show for tonight. And any questions that you have, just tag Nick in the question, and then he can get to those later. With that being said, thanks so much, y'all. Have a good night.
Good night.